Okay, first question for Stewart and Janet. Okay, whoever chooses to answer, but how did you guys meet?
Well, that's a big question there. Well, I'll make it a short story, and I'll say that I had a friend who had a mother in Florida who was very interested in the work that I did and told me that she had read an article in a magazine by this woman in Oregon who she felt was going to be a very good friend to me, and that I should give her a call. And, of course, I was married at the time, but I was going through a divorce. And Janet was also married and planning on leaving her spouse, but we each didn't know that about each other. And so I called at a time when I thought she wouldn't be home, so I wouldn't have to talk to her. And then I could tell the friend's mother that I tried, and she just wasn't there. And so I did, and I left a message, but Janet called back. And we spoke for hours on the phone, and we knew at that time that we had to be together.
Oh, awesome. Janet, you said one time, I don't know if how I read it or whatever, but like when you guys were first together, I mean, you literally like lived in one room or a very tiny space. Is that true?
That is true. It was the size of most people's bathrooms. We slept in a twin bed, the two of us, and we, of course, eventually had Zachary in the room as well with us when he was born. So there was a twin bed, a crib, a computer, a chest of drawers, and everything was everywhere. But it was about the size of somebody's bathroom, maybe a larger one because we had the twin bed and the crib, but it was pretty cramped. We were there for a year.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, humble beginnings, but you guys. I mean, I really think of you guys as a. I mean, I've been married a long time, but I love the fact that you guys seem. I don't know. That you work together. You're each other's inspiration. There's a lot of respect that comes through in the relationship. So I just want to give kudos and honor that. As well. So how is it working for yourselves and in a family business? Because that's what we do here,
Yeah. Well, we get along pretty well, actually. In fact, it's kind of funny. We have desks side by side, and Renee, our office manager, she says often, "I don't know how you guys do it. I never hear you fight." And I said, "Well,
I just told her we just wait till you leave."
That's right. But no, we get along pretty well. We have our moments like everybody, but overall we get along pretty well.
Well, somebody said to me, "Oh my God, you've been married so long. Have you ever thought about divorce?" I said, "No, but murder? Yeah."
Well, that's big in Chicago, isn't it?
Well, yeah. In fact, we're just we're west of Chicago, but we definitely felt that earthquake that was was it about 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Stewart, you always have a great take on when earthquakes occur in the Midwest. What we're close to, and if you're not from the Midwest, what do we have in right near Chicago? Fermilab, exactly.
Yeah.
And
well, we also have the New Madrid fault line, and we also have the Wabash fault line.
Right.
Which you remember 2 years ago this time, actually, we had that 5.4 earthquake, which was kind of scary.
Yeah.
But this one a couple of weeks ago, that was not along a fault line. That was definitely generated by the particle beam accelerator at Fermi Labs, which is, I believe, near Aurora.
Yes.
Well, it's so interesting because it is near Aurora. It's in Batavia, but really it's just outside of Geneva, Illinois, which I think is fascinating because where's the other one at? In Geneva, Switzerland.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, that's just, I love it when those little things happen. Here we have two big things built, that these accelerators built, and they just happen to be right next to Geneva, So I just love that. And so forth. But I know that you guys came back from Antarctica, and I was wondering if you could share some of your experiences that you had on your trip.
Well, you would need about a week.
Other than seasickness, huh?
Well, I don't know where to begin because, it was kind of I don't know. Even before we left to go, there was complications. The night before we left, I know Chicago was kind of clear, but here we had about almost 30 inches of snow in a lake effect snowstorm that lasted 4 days, and I didn't think we were going to get out. And but we did, of course, precariously. We got to the airport. The flight was late. There was no heat on the flight, and of course in Chicago it was 4 degrees Fahrenheit that day. And but anyway, we got to Florida. There was no shuttle taking us to the hotel. The next day there was issues at the airport. We had to fly to Bogota, Colombia, as a first leg in South America. And then we got to the airport in Bogota, get to the counter for our next flight, and we were told that we didn't have a ticket. So that was a surprise. And I said, okay, and I was like, really, it was a really big test of my oversoul work and my balancing and grounding, which I must admit slipped me by a little bit at the time. And but the weird thing was, a soldier, a Colombian soldier, just came over to me and asked me if we needed any help. And I said yes, and I told him the situation. And he personally took us to places that would give us help. Took me behind security areas, to airline offices that were out of bounds. And make a long story short, if it wasn't for him, I'd be working on a coffee plantation right now.
It took us 11 hours to get tickets, and then we had to spend the night in the airport on hard benches.
Yeah, we slept on a bench.
Yeah. And then we said later we should have taken our pictures, I guess.
Yeah. The glorious life of Stewart.
Your website.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, we finally made it. We had to go to Lima, Peru. Then we went to Argentina. And in Argentina there were issues. And then we had to fly to Ushuaia, which is the most southern city in the world on Tierra del Fuego, on the border with Chile. Yeah, it was the border with Chile. And then we took the ship across the Drake Passage. And the Drake Passage is the roughest water in the world. And it really is. And
we thought going down was rough until we came back.
Yeah, I mean, we had, going down there, we had 15-foot waves, which I thought, were pretty rough, and we even got seasick. But coming back, there were 45-foot waves.
Wow.
And let me tell you, all I could hear in my head was the theme from Gilligan's Island and the Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is that common? Because I couldn't even imagine 45-foot waves.
I couldn't either.
They were tall as the ship. You looked out there and you saw them coming at you.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I am not seeing this. Yeah, it's the scariest thing I ever did in my whole life, and it was 40 hours of that.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, did not stop. In fact, they said it was very strange because generally they did not have winds from the east. And if they did, they were very short-lived. This was the entire trip. And so the message was very loud and clear that even though they couldn't stop us, they could certainly make it uncomfortable for us, and they did.
And of course, and also in that time period, underneath the Drake Passage was a 6.3 earthquake at this, at that time too. So it was one thing after another. But once we were in Antarctica, it was very calm, very beautiful. In fact, they said it was the most amazing weather that they had ever experienced there. The most, night. I mean, it was cold. It was around freezing, even though it was the middle of summer in Antarctica, but it was calm weather, calm seas, amazing scenery, the most breathtaking, pristine scenery you can ever imagine. It was like being on another planet.
And because it's all granite, there was really no ELF in the air. So it was very, very strange feeling because you don't realize how much ELF you're under when you're here in the normal part of the world, but you go down there where all the granite stops it from coming through. It's just so still and so quiet and so peaceful. It's really amazing to experience that.
But we did visit a lot of bases there.
Yeah.
And we did scan some underground bases that were there, including the Fourth Reich German base, which is in that area, not far from that area. So a lot of information.
And when we were
that's just cool.
Deception Island, which was a volcanic
yeah,
crater. We actually sailed into that in our boat.
Yeah.
We actually saw etheric pyramids over the crater.
And
which
UFOs.
And UFOs, which we were able to capture
We actually
on
photographed.
film.
They are on film.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yay.
that's phenomenal. I mean,
yay.
Yeah. I always want to go back a little bit. So for people who are new, what is ELF? And then also, too, you talked about using your tools. Now, I know some of your tools are the brown merger symbol, the T-bar for balancing, and then also, I do this a lot. So, flushing or putting violet around me for protection.
Right.
Could you just kind of describe that a little bit for people who may not know about those tools, because they are so helpful?
I know. It's sometimes hard to describe on the air without showing visual.
Right.
But what we do is work of hyperspace, which is what we call the way the God mind thinks, the original thinking, which is color, tone, and archetype symbol. It's a triad of language, the original language of creation. And when you know how to use those and put those together and decipher them, you can actually create whatever you want to create in your life. And when we talk about balancing your T-bar, at the very center of your head, between the two hemispheres of the brain, is the pineal gland. It's a very small organ at the exact geographic center of your brain, which acts physically as a liaison between the left and right hemispheres of the brain so that your thinking doesn't go to extremes. And it also is the liaison between the physical and the non-physical, so that all the work that Janet and I teach, we center at the pineal, because in that way you can access the hyperspace levels, which is pure thought, pure energy, pure mind, which is really what we are. That's really what we are.
Oh, I think that was beautifully put. I really do. And I think that even if you're just feeling, like I would have been centering my T-bar a lot on that trip that you guys were on, because even if I'm just feeling a little off, I just want to, check in and see, how that T-bar is doing, and it works. It really does. And again, too, I being a fan of Carl Jung, and I love this idea of symbols or tones, archetypes, and color, because it is universal.
Yeah.
It's not something for America and something different for Africa. It really is universal.
And it's for any being, any species in any universe, because it comes from the origin or source of all of it.
And so when we were on the ship, then as you're talking about, we interpreted all the symbols around us. For example, being on the water represents all your emotions, and of course that's the roughest place on earth, so a lot of us had a lot of emotional things coming up as a out picturing of what was going on the inner world and the outer world coming together. So it was very interesting to take a look at it that way.
Yeah.
How are your dreams?
Well, I don't sleep, so I don't have any.
You don't? Okay. You've mastered that, huh?
Well, not quite. I'd like to, though. See, some people have fantasies about, sports cars and things like that. I have fantasy about sleeping.
You really? So you're telling me the truth. That's
true.
Yeah, people have very interesting dreams while they were on the ship, because they're going through so much. When you're on a trip like that, it's like every day and every night is, you will just multiply that and expand whatever your normal would be. There is no normal. You don't know what's day and what's night.
Well, actually, because there was 24-hour sunlight.
That's right. And so even one of my children one day, he says, "What time is it?" I said, 7:30. And then he looks at me and says, "Well, is that morning or night?" You can't tell the difference. So your everything is so mixed up and jumbled up, and that's the idea, is that you want to rework the way that you normally work, get that neural network going in a different direction, so that you can come up to new solutions to old situations, and you can get shaken up, which we literally were shaken up, so that everything that's in the bottom can come to the top, and you can become a whole new person by consciously rearranging what's going on in your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, it reminds me of James Bond likes his martini shaken but not stirred, but really, literally everything that's going on right now on the planet is being shaken and stirred. It's like,
yeah, that's right, and it's going to get worse.
Talk a little. I'd love for you to talk a little bit, excuse me, about ELF and what's. I mean, it just seems to be getting worse. That's all I can say. You know, I enjoy having a clearer mind, but there are times I just go, oh, I need to put myself up in protection because I can feel it.
Well, so for your listeners, ELF stands for extra low frequency. It's an electromagnetic energy, or basically an emanation, which can be measured and is used in equipment, and it's also part of our energy fields of all living bodies have electromagnetic energies. But artificial ELF can be generated, which can mimic or copy brainwave patterns and actually imprint in your brain mind control and programming so that specific functions and even subpersonalities or alters can be installed and create, for all intents and purposes, a robot society. And very often, when areas experience an ELF pulse, or a bombardment, as we call it, there will be behavioral issues, there will be weather anomalies, animals will act differently, you'll feel strangely, some people get depressed, some people get angry or aggressive. There'll always be a reaction. And that's why, I think as Julie mentioned, we use a violet protection, which is the color we put in and around our field of our bodies, because violet has a function of protection and filtering of energies. So when you do that, and I describe various different ways of using the color violet in protection techniques, that will actually filter out the ELF or even microwave pulses that are bombarding an area so that you can remain intact.
And also it's very important that people be aware of their own personal boundaries, because when they put that bubble around themselves, they want to make sure that they encompass the entire auric field. So what I tell people to do is, what you really do is, with your mind, you're already aware of your auric field, but people have selective sight. But you can go on the oversoul level and ask that your auric field be pulled in close to your body, and you will it in just like you would will your mind to go, or you would will an arm to go up and down. And then with your mind, you cover that or surround it with a violet bubble with a mirror on the outside to deflect anything that you don't want to come in. And then you're totally encapsulated, and you without any holes in your auric field to allow anything in.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I use that violet light. Violet light of protection a lot. And I remember one time reading, and I would really recommend going to Janet and Stewart's, our Stewart and Janet's website. I don't want to mix you guys up, but expansions.com, because you have a wonderful website where you guys answer questions, and your articles that you and the news stories. They're wonderful. And I remember one time, I don't know when this was, I was reading something, and it was like, be careful when you put something up for protection, or I think it was about being invisible. You could make yourself invisible. It's like, don't do it when you're driving, because you want to be seen driving. And I was like, oh, that's right, I do. So I love your website. I think it's so informative, and you can spend hours and hours on there. So I just want to say right now that I so appreciate all the work that you guys have done on your website. You've helped so many people, and kudos to you both.
Well, thank you.
And
you can just tell by reading your questions, that the question and answers, how that you've helped a lot of people. But I think what's amazing is how and I think it's Stewart, and I think it's Janet that does it too, but it's like you see the human, you see us whole, you see us as, how we nurture ourselves, nutrition. I mean, you have tools for the whole human. And what I also appreciate, like Julie, is that you guys, even though you're like rock stars, you make yourselves available, for sessions for people. And that's awesome, especially at this stage of the game, which to me just really reflects, again, I'm gushing, but your guys' commitment to and your service to the planet right now.
Well, I appreciate that, and I always find it interesting, sometimes humorous, because a lot of people refer to us like, oh, you're a rock star, you're a celebrity. I was like, well, I don't feel that way. You should see me when I'm cleaning up dog poop or cat vomit.
Well, that makes you,
I don't think the rock stars do that.
And the other thing, too, is one thing that we always talk about in our work is it's not that we're the experts and we know so much, and that's why we do what we do. It's because we have so many issues, and we have so many questions, and so we dig deep, and then we kind of just throw it out there, like, hey, this is what's working for us, so why don't you give it a try? And so it's, it's that kind of feeling that we want to give. We don't really like for people to put us up on a pedestal because we don't really feel we belong there. Everybody should be on a pedestal. Everybody's a positive and a negative, and everybody's full of rich experiences, and we're kind of in this big planet together right now, so everybody's got a piece of the puzzle, and everybody's got a specific job to do.
Well, that's exactly right. And I feel like it's a collaborative world. I feel it's a collaborative world. And I wanted to mention this, we talked about earth changes a little bit and all the earthquakes that have been going on. And I really wanted to touch a little bit about the victim mentality because, Christine and I, we do coaching, but a lot of times, every Thursday we do a show. It's 20 minutes long, and we visualize feeling prosperous. And it's a global phone call, and you can find out more information about it at ChristineMarieandJulie.com. But some of the comments that come to me, that people are emailing me is like, what do you do when you feel there's no justice in the world? What do you do? And there's a lot of that victim mentality is really surfacing right now. Do you see that right now, Stewart, with some of the questions that you're getting? And how can we, because we're all about being empowered, and it is about our thoughts and our mind, using that for our, using that to help us succeed. And Janet, in your book, 1,099 Affirmations, you have a section in here about not just about vertical movement, and we have to use all of our tools to do that vertical movement. So do you guys see right now in the plant there's just more of this victim mentality going on, and how can we, fight that a little bit?
Well, first of all, I tell everyone they need to take responsibility. I use an analogy that thoughts are like film, the brain is the projector, and physical reality is the screen. So if you're not happy with the movie that you're seeing around you or that you're in, you need to change the film, which is the way you think. So whatever you're thinking will be projected out into your life and into your body. So you are the only one responsible for what you experience. No matter what is going on in the world, no matter how you judge it positive or negative, each one of us has a responsibility for creating at least our part of it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be aware of it. We wouldn't have an experience with it. Even if we're just reading about it in the news or seeing it on TV, if we are experiencing that, even in that medium, we are partially responsible. So we need to go within ourselves and look at where are we a victim? Where are we attracting oppressors and tyrants in this world and personally? And we need to do our release work and grow up the child within and do our deprogramming work to remove those mind patterns and overlaying programs that are creating the situation.
And I think, too, a lot of times that people don't stop and realize that the oppressors play a very important role, because when you're being oppressed, it gives you the initiative to get out and not be oppressed. So that's what forces you to get into deeper parts of yourself and to stretch your own parameters and do even more and big and better things. And that doesn't mean you get, you go get a gun and you go start shooting things like unfortunately we see on the news these days. It's an opportunity for you to stretch mentally, change the mind pattern, and therefore change that outer reflection. And that's how you change the world, one person at a time, is by working on your own mind. And there can only be oppressors if there's a victim mentality. So learn your lesson, figure out why they're there, and move on. Surpass.
That's great.
do you feel, I mean, because, I've personally done a lot of, release work, but there are times when I am still triggered, and another, I guess, level comes up for release and healing. I mean, it would be lovely to think that, boom, done, next, but do you find in your own healings that you do get triggered again and it comes up for a deeper clearing? Or?
Absolutely. There's layer and layer and layer and layer after layer. And when you think you're done, guess what? Here's another layer coming up. And
Yeah.
that's why we're in physical reality, because physical reality is the mirror for us of what's inside. If we didn't have anything, we wouldn't be here. So as long as we're on the physical plane, we will have issues that are going to come up that need to be purged out.
And what's interesting is the theme of our seminar that's coming up here toward the end of April is deep healing. And, it's like every year I feel like I go deeper and deeper. And it's like, can I go any deeper? Well, yeah, there's still a ton of stuff in there. Let's keep going. And sometimes I get discouraged like everybody else, and I need a breather. No breather ever comes, but that's what I feel like. And you just keep going in deeper and deeper. And like Stewart says, it's just, where is the end? There just doesn't seem to be one because we're full of experience in there.
And, and I use that analogy of that trip that we went back from Antarctica back to Argentina with those 45-foot waves, and I'm looking out of these big picture windows, wave after wave after wave, and I'm thinking, when is it going to end? But the analogy was, I was creating that mentally. All of us on that ship were creating it mentally. And as we surpassed and surmounted each wave, well, then we're ready for the next one. And that's what our lives are like here. And I'm hoping, of course, that most of the listeners out there don't have these huge issues that come at them wave after wave, but of course there'll always be something. But we need to realize that our purpose in life is to find who we really are, and that we are part of the God mind, and that we can be and do anything that we wish.
And interestingly enough, when we went down on the 15-foot waves and thinking that was rough, and then when we came back on the 45-foot waves, we found out what was really rough. That's what makes the story so interesting. Wow, we went on those waves, we survived it. This is what happened, this is how we felt, and that's very analogous to what happens in life. Sometimes the roughest parts of your life are what you remember the most and are the most interesting because they challenge you the most and you learn the most. You don't forget those. So instead of run from things that are challenging, it's easier to greet the challenge and say, okay, how are we going to get through this? What does it mean? Let's go, guys.
Yeah, what is the deeper meaning? How do we make friends with it? How do we be at peace with it? Certainly, for sure. I had a question and I forgot it, but...
well, I'm going to say something really quick.
Sure.
Janet, you mentioned your April 23rd, 24th, and 25th. You guys are having I guess not a conference. I don't know what you're calling it.
It's a seminar.
You have it written. A seminar, thank you, on deep healing. And if I'm not mistaken, you're going to be learning a technique about scanning the body. Is that going to happen there that weekend?
That's correct.
Yeah, we will teach people how to go inside and look at all their organs and figure out what it means emotionally and mentally so that they can change whatever they need to change. And they're going to learn that genetics is inconsequential. A lot of times people think, well, if my mom had it, my dad had it, that means I'm going to have it. And you go to a doctor's exam, that's what they want to know. What's genetic in your family? Well, the genetic part of it is really the mind pattern, not the body that reproduces it.
Yeah.
So we're going to go and look at some really interesting things, the simultaneous existences, how that affects you. We're going to get really deep into the physical structure because the deeper we go, the deeper we can read our mind pattern from another level.
Oh, beautiful. Well, can we talk, Julie, do we have a commercial coming up? Because
yeah,
I would love to talk about simultaneous existences. I mean, that's where I am fascinated by right now, and but I'll let you're handling the board.
Yep,
and,
I'll give everybody a couple minutes of a break.
I said, well, we're all in this together, so I guess that's why you're a reflection of me and vice versa. But I use them
Right.
myself. I use affirmations every single day, and sometimes to me it feels like 24/7 because I feel like I'm a really big project. I've got a lot of stuff going on in there. I'm working on moving and shaking and turning around and doing a variety of things with. So it's very important what our words are. That's the tone, that's the color, that's the archetype right there. That's perfect. It once you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
Well,
here's the thing with affirmations.
I was going to say I like affirmations because for me, if I say them enough, they kind of bypass the ego personality part and get right to the subconscious. And that's where they start doing their good work as well.
They really change the neural network in the brain because every time that you speak a word, you have a pathway that electrical impulse follows. So that's why it's so challenging for people to change their behavior because the brain already has this pathway of these electrical sparks flowing. And so when you want to change your behavior, you have to change that network. And so you really change the formation of the brain itself. And the words do that. So that's why you have to say them over and over and over and over because you have to get those sparks going in a new way they're not used to going. They already have a pathway. It's like, why should I go another direction? So there are lots of things going on at the same time, and so it's really important that whatever you want to consciously create, that you make that effort to do it and not just think it once or twice and give up. I'm working on one of my meds, which is our free newsletter for the coming weeks, and one of it is that there's things I've been working on for decades. It's like, okay, when's this going to be over? Like we talked about going deep. Okay, here's another layer. Decades.
Right.
So, don't tell me I've tried for 3 weeks and nothing happens. I'm decades here.
Right, yeah. Good.
Well, I
that's
think it's important
good.
to know. Yeah, it's important to know, too, about the neural pathways. I mean, this is why I tell my clients, cut yourself some slack when we're doing these new things, when we're moving towards expansion. We have done this pattern before over and over again, and to break that, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. And I think you talk about that for your weekend.
Yes, we call it deep healing. Don't come unless you're ready to get uncomfortable, because you're going to when you change. Growth, whether it's a seed sprouting through the soil. Think of that little seed sprouting through the dirt. I mean, it's stretching, it's growing, it's moving dirt. It's not such an easy task when you break it down.
And I think so many times we stop short of change because we feel so uncomfortable that there may be that programming that thinks like, oh, I must not be on the right path then. Because if it was easy, I'd be on the right path. If I'm on the right path, it would be easy. It wouldn't be so uncomfortable.
Right.
And I think that can do a disservice sometimes because we want to believe that, oh, my mind changed my thoughts, and I'm doing my positive affirmations, and everything should be going easy, and I'm feeling uncomfortable. And so I just want to let people know that it's okay to feel uncomfortable.
Right.
That's when the change happens.
Absolutely. In fact, one of my favorite affirmations is I am comfortable in the midst of my discomfort. Because that's acknowledging, yes, I'm going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's, I've never had a child, but sometimes my change feels like childbirth, and
Absolutely, it is. It's birthing a new part of yourself, a new part of the soul energy is now expressing. And then in order for that to do, sometimes a part of the soul personality goes back to the oversoul. So there's lots of stuff that goes on within us all the time on many levels.
Hey, so can we talk a little bit about the simultaneous existences? One of the things that I've been using the brown merger symbol for years, but I used it as a means of, collecting things that no longer serve and, putting them into the brown merger symbol and then, releasing it to the oversoul. But then I recently, read, Stewart, that you used the brown merger symbol to actually merge simultaneous existences. Am I telling that correctly?
Yes, you are. It's I use it for two different reasons. The brown merger, initially, I taught as a way of reintegrating the fractured personality as a result of programming and mind control.
Okay.
However, you can also use it within the context of the oversoul to merge with other selves in other realities or parallel universes where you have achieved a certain goal. So for example, you talking about prosperity and abundance. If you use the brown merger symbol and you consciously say, I now merge with all my alternate selves in every universe where I exist, where I am completely abundant and wealthy and prosperous, then that's what you'll pull in. You have to be very specific about what you ask for, because that's what you'll get. You don't want to pull in an alternate self who's an axe murderer or who has a disease or something like this, because in totality of creation, you do exist with those issues somewhere. So you only want to merge in with the beneficial aspects of self that you can use in your current physical reality.
I love it. Can you say that again? I'm going to write them down.
Can't you just replay the tape?
I only, what was it?
I now merge with all my alternate selves in every universe where I exist that is abundant, healthy, prosperous, and wise, or whatever other positive words you want to use. Whatever you want to merge with, that's what you consciously state.
That's beautiful. I think what I might have been wrong about, I guess I thought that these simultaneous existences came at maybe critical points in our own lives where we maybe split off and chose a different path. But you're kind of saying that when we were born, we were also born in all these other same simultaneous existences as well?
Yes, I call it it's called the eternal now. So there is no past, present, or future. There's just the now. And you exist in every time zone, every existence that you can visualize or imagine, you exist in it. You know, there are parallel universes, which quantum physics is now saying is really there. They're finally admitting to it.
Yes.
There are universes where the Nazis won the war. There are universes where the Atlantis never sank and continues now. There are universes where the Earth never existed. You know, everything you can think of is somewhere in the God mind. Every possibility, every probability exists somewhere. Nothing is left undone. And we have all of that.
We have the ability to merge with all the beneficial. In some sense, we're pulling in energy that may have been scattered or something like that.
It's not scattered. It's intact in its own environment where it exists. You know, think of a radio station. If you turn the dial just a little bit, there's another station there. If you turn a little more, there's another station. All different, but they're on the same radio. Well, in your oversoul are all these different frequencies, all these different life streams that exist in different environments, and they're all part of you. And as you know, to bring back or correlate what we're talking about to what we talked about previously, the Hadron Collider in Geneva and the Fermilabs Collider in Illinois, one of the functions, or what they're really doing there, is merging our reality with other realities where the Illuminati have won and already are in total power and control. That's the real experiment that they're doing.
Okay.
So
that's a little scary. That feels a little scary to me, but I know I know that I don't have to have a mind pattern that it won't affect me. I mean, that's kind of what being empowered means, is that if my mind is clear and I am feeling prosperous but also feeling empowered, then those stuff I'm not really attracted to. I mean, isn't that kind of how it is?
You will create whatever you're thinking, whatever that may be.
Okay.
And here's the other thing. Be very careful what you think, because even though you may not accept that thought in this current reality, there's another version of you in some alternate reality where that thought will fit in the slot. So if you think about killing somebody and well, I'll never really do it, I just think about it, Well, there's some part of you somewhere that will do it in another reality. So then the question is, who's responsible for that murder? Since you originated the thought, but another version of you acted on it, who's responsible?
Can you then go back and change what what you have thought and
Here's
say,
the thing.
okay, I no longer have that resentment or those thoughts of murder, which, like you said, we have all said, like, really, I want to kill him, you know? Can we then completely say, oh, I feel neutral. You know, I choose to feel neutral about this person, and I take responsibility for whatever happens in my life, knowing that whatever happened, I choose it to be only for the best, for my higher self. And then I believe in expansion. And I love it when we say that we really have then experienced so much contrast to then give us that flavor or that momentum to move forward and have expansion. So that's how I explain things to myself when things have gone a little bit awry in my life. Like, oh, I didn't plan this. Wasn't in my mind pattern that I thought. I'm experiencing contrast. I want to move forward. So can I go back and then say, okay, I did wish him harm or whatever, and I no longer do, and can I change my other realities then?
You can't take back a thought.
Okay.
You know, it's like when you say a word, it's out there. You can't take the word back. And you just have to go from this point onward, and you have to change your thinking, your mind pattern now, because you're in the eternal now. And yes, it will affect whatever cells or other parallel universes you exist in. It's their choice to accept or reject that thought. But you can't take back what you've already thought. It's out there. You can only change yourself at this moment.
Okay.
But you also have to forgive and release yourself as well.
Well, I do believe,
absolutely.
yeah, I believe in forgiveness and the big release work. I know that, Janet, you've talked about releasing is like the most important thing you can do for your future, you know, releasing the past. And I was, in your website, you have a section called Archives and articles and talking about releasing belief patterns, I think, and how important it is to just get rid of everything in your house that no longer serves you, you know, and it's the most important thing to do for your future, for your present moment.
Right, because everybody really is setting up what they're going to be doing. They're really, what I say, living their past. Because there's whatever they're doing today, they're going to be living tomorrow. So, for instance, if people said, well, every year I have a cold, well, then every year they get a cold. So they're setting up their, what you're calling the future, but technically it's going to become their past because they've already said it. Now they're doing it. And that's another reason why sometimes people say, well, why don't the affirmations work right away? Well, that's because you're cleaning up your past as you go, and you're building your past as you go as well. And there's also a kindness in that because, like you just said, if you wish somebody would drop dead and they did, well, there you have it, you know. Your words are very powerful. So you can modify that a little bit so that, you know, you don't have that on your conscience and have another issue to deal with.
You know, on the chat room right now, people are really talking about and I hope I say this right, Kuiper's belt.
Oh, yes,
and
that's the topic du jour.
Yes. I was hoping you could, you know,
tell us
talk
about
to us
that.
about that.
Well, if you beg me about it, maybe I'll talk about it.
Please, Stewart.
Stewart.
Well, okay. Even though you did not give me the violet M&Ms I requested in my dressing room.
M&M. All right, and I'll have your picture put on it too. I will.
Well, I'll explain what the Kuiper's belt is anyway. Outside or at the edge of our solar system, past the outer planets, there is a field of space called the Kuiper's belt. It's an energy field. There's energy in there, but it's part of the ring of our solar system, to make a long story short. Now, in the last couple of years, approximately maybe 3 years ago on CNN, BBC, AOL, we started seeing almost daily reports from NASA and other space agencies of these objects suddenly appearing in the Kuiper's Belt. They'd be large, they'd be planet-sized, they'd be satellite-sized, and they'd be moving in different directions, and it was very odd. And, of course, science says, well, you know, this is an area of space. We don't know much about it. And there's all kinds of objects there. And then so many new ones started to appear, it started to get suspicious to the public. And so that's when, if you remember, they said, well, you know what? Pluto is really in the Kuiper's Belt, so it's not a planet, it's something else. And that's when they started reclassifying Pluto. It's a planet, it's a planetoid, it's not a planet, it's a this, it's a that. To this day, we don't know what Pluto is, okay? But the idea of why they did that is because they then made people think, well, you know, Pluto's been there, we know Pluto, so it's okay. Everything that's out there is just like Pluto. It was to get the shock value off of the people so they'd stop thinking about it. Well, and then the news stopped. Then there was no news about that area of space for a very long period of time. Then recently, they started picking things up again, mostly in foreign science magazines and newspapers, and they mentioned, well, there's one object that's out there that's traveling in an orbit completely contrary to everything else in our solar system, which really should not happen.
Whoa.
And so, make a long story short,
Whoa.
what we're seeing is an amassing of a fleet of objects from all over. The Illuminati, the powers that be on this planet, don't even know what the heck they are. That's scary to them. Some of them are moving closer. And if you remember, just a couple of weeks ago, there was that sun cam, I guess, from NASA that showed these huge objects flying out of the sun.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Right. Well, if you go to my Simultaneous Existence DVD, years ago, I said a black hole in one universe is a star in another universe and vice versa. That's how the parallel universes exchange energy and equalize with each other. It's like breathing in and out for the universes. And so our star, or any star, is like a stargate for another universe. What we're seeing are objects coming in from other universes through our star and apparently connecting to this Kuiper Belt force.
Oh, my God. OMG.
Well, so yeah. And so it gets worse because it's kind of like a blockade of our solar system. And that's why, for so long, there were no sunspots, because nothing was coming through. It was like a blockade, if you will. And so now I think something's up, and they are coming through. And here's another thing. I am seeing that these massing armies, whatever you want to call them, they are sabotaging what's going on the Earth. They are sabotaging the colliders. That's why the Hadron Collider was shut down twice. There was no problem there. It's because they were connecting to the wrong parallel universes. They were being sabotaged.
Interesting. Now, I just heard the news, and I thought this was so odd because there's no reason to hear about this. They said, oh, NASA has just suspended all moon landings. And I'm like,
yeah.
When did, okay, I mean, what is that about? So what's going on with that? Is that all part of this thing that there's a lot going on in space, and we get blurbs in the news about it, but yet in a very odd way?
Well, you know, the space project as we know it is for public consumption. There's a whole nother, way advanced space project or agency that has existed since the late 1950s. What people don't realize is that the U.S. and the Soviet Union in 1957 both had landings on the moon using alien technology that was found in Roswell in 1947. There's a whole lot going on that is not being revealed to the public. And remember a few months ago they bombed the moon to see if there was water on it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, why couldn't the astronauts when they were on the moon just scooped up the soil and said if there's water in it? Why did we have to bomb it? That was a cover story. And as you remember, as the spacecraft approached, the screen went blank. And then no one could see anything till after it was over. What were they bombing? They were bombing some kind of an installation on the moon that the Kuiper's Belt people put on there to monitor the Earth. What we're experiencing is an interstellar war. And I'm going to say that not in the not very far future, in fact, probably before the end of this year, it's going to become very apparent to everybody on the surface of the Earth. Remember those lights seen over northern Norway and the ships seen over the Kremlin and all these things that have been on the news recently? Okay? Now, years ago, they would have made fun of that. They would have been called lunatics, all these things. Now it's taken seriously by the news.
Well, first of all, it was totally ignored, and of course, then after they decide to totally ignore something, then they make fun of it to start breaking it into the people's consciousness, and from there it becomes more serious. So, you know, it's a progression in this genre or any genre that they want to introduce into the public seriously.
Yeah, so we're about to go through some very interesting times. And that's why it's so important to purge out all victimization now. You know, and that's why the April seminar we're doing now, because there's no time to waste. People have to know what to do this moment.
They really do.
And having in St. Joseph in Michigan is a beautiful spot to have it, because Michigan, on Lake Michigan, is just beautiful. It's a beautiful place, and you couldn't ask for a nicer weekend in April, that's for sure.
But also, too, isn't where you guys live, is it the quartz? Is that what you are, there's something geological there.
It's a step-up transformer area because we do have the beaches filled with the quartz crystal, and we do have the copper mines around it, and we do have a vortex in the middle of the lakes, and the water is an amplifier. So it is an amazing, amazing energetic spot here.
Exactly. So can we talk, pretty please, can we talk aliens?
Sure, what do you want to know about them? And please exclude my family.
That's your immediate family, I hope.
Yeah, exactly.
Extended family.
What's that old movie, My Mother-in-Law is an Alien? I don't know.
I wrote that.
I know that, I remember you talked about, like I'm sure there's many types, but you were talking about in terms of the Kuiper's Belt, that there are aliens that are kind of like friends to the planet, our planet, and then there's aliens that are, I guess, against the aliens that are friends to our planet, and then there's the third kind that you describe as really, we probably don't know too much about because they're, you know, from the Kuiper's Belt. Am I describing it correctly?
Well, let me clarify. They're not, the first group is not friends to the planet. The first group is allied with the government.
Oh, that's a big difference.
A big, big difference, yes.
Yeah.
You know, because as I say, despite what the New Age people say and what the, you know, there are no love, light, and peace aliens coming to upgrade the world and, you know, give mankind the cure to everything. No. Those aliens do not come here because they don't interfere. The ones that come here have an agenda. They're not here to make your life better. They're here to use your life. That's why they're here. Or even to get rid of it so that they can have this place. You know, why is the Earth so important? Well, just like real estate, it's location, location, location. Yeah, it's where we are in the galaxy, where we stick out on the arm. You know, our galaxy, the Milky Way, is shaped like a pinwheel. Our solar system is at the edge of one of those pinwheels. That's why from here we could see into the whole rest of the galaxy, because we're at the edge. So if you're a force that's coming to invade such a galaxy, the most logical thing you can do is surround all the points and then work your way in. So we're very strategic. We're very strategic location. That's why there's such interest here.
And can we then all just choose that this is going to be an amazing time, an exciting time for us all, and protect ourselves from maybe the fear that might come in, because it does sound a little scary. Now, I do know, I mean, you're talking to people, my mom and I and my whole family, we have seen things up in the sky. I mean, I've seen a triangle go over my house. I've seen the lights, 3 bright lights turn into one, then break up again. I mean, so I have seen very interesting things. So I'm feel a little anxious about this sometimes. And how do I combat that anxiousness?
Well, all the tools that we talk about, protection technique, releasing the victimization, growing up the child within, releasing all the trauma from childhood, basically reintegrating yourself to a whole and protected original personality where nothing can happen to you unless you allow it. So it doesn't even matter what's going on in the world or what's going on in your neighborhood. If you have the right mind pattern, you will not be affected by that.
Exactly. And it'll be a fun show. That's for sure.
Well, with enough vodka.
Exactly. I'm usually a Tanqueray person,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't have any of that stuff now, so.
Well, anyway,
go ahead,
Chris,
Jill.
were you going to say something? Okay. Well, no, I wanted to share with you or talk a little bit about the vanished ones. You had mentioned that in one of your news topics about how people are just, 1 million people that disappear every year on planet Earth anyway. Is that because they're using us for energy, or what is that about?
Well, many different reasons. Some of them are used in sexual ritual magic. Some of them are used in sacrifice rituals. Some are used in experimentation. Some are taken off-world for other purposes. It depends on each case. Each case is a unique case. But yes, literally millions of people vanish from this planet every year without a trace.
Wow. Janet?
Yes.
Oh, I feel like I'm a little staticky. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're fine.
Yep. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah. One of the things that I've always wanted to ask you about, I thought I read that you wrote about female twins, and that if one is fertile, then the other is not. Now, did I read that correctly, or is that?
Well, actually, I'm an ex-dairy farmer, so I know that about cows.
Okay.
And I'm not so sure about the females that are humans. But I am surmising that I have never researched that out.
Mm-hmm. But that always amazed me, though, because I don't know. I've only known like 1 or 2, but it has borne out that only one of them, has children and the other one doesn't. So I was just wondering about that because my son is getting married, and his wife to be is a female and a twin. So I was just wondering.
Well, usually on identical twins, it's one soul and 2 bodies, and so that's why they're different. It takes 2 bodies to hold all the soul energy, and that's Stewart and I talk about that within ourselves. Even though we're expressing as male and female, we're one soul and 2 bodies, and that's why we have different materials all going in the same direction, because the energy that we have couldn't fit in one body. And that is our purpose of being together in this particular incarnation, is to bring the information that we have forward in a whole and complete way. And it takes the 2 bodies for that to happen.
Yes, and you do that. You guys really do that very nicely.
And I also want to bring up right now, too, I know our time is running out, but the Healer's Handbook, I've been reading on your website about turning back our biological clock, and I'm really interested in that, and I would love to hear how that can be done. And can we get the Healer's Handbook on your website, or should we go to Amazon.com? Because I think it's an older book, isn't it? Or is that where that information's at?
Well, it's my second book that I ever did, and yes, it is available on our site. And turning back the biological clock is an exercise in that book, and it's a bit complicated, so I couldn't really go through that on this show because we'd be here a very long time, and I'd have to show things visually first for you to understand. But it does really work. And I remember I did a workshop in Los Angeles a few years ago where there was this woman in her 60s, and on that Saturday we did that work. And she did the, everyone turned their clock back to when they wanted to turn it back. And the next day, she came in and she was very angry at me. And I said, why? She said, because I got my menstrual cycle back.
Surprise!
I said, well, can't I just turn back the clock and not get that? I was like, well, I haven't worked out that detail.
Well, also in my Decoding Your Life book, I also talk about regenerating the physical structure, and I talk about recycling the energy and the experiences that you have, and why does the physical body age? Because technically, according to conventional science, the body's cells replenish themselves once every 7 years totally. The whole body goes through a change, so why does the body age? But if you look at how the experience is what creates the physical structure, and as you pass that up, the experience, you're not really just passing up thoughts, which people don't understand. It's energy, which creates the body. And as that happens, then that allows for new experiences to come in and for the body to regenerate itself. So we actually have it in both books, the Healer's Handbook, Stewart's version, and my version in Decoding Your Life.
Mm-hmm.
And those are both on your
it.
website, on expansions.com. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, your website has a lot of material there. How long have you guys been really focusing on this information? I know, Stewart, you were part of the Montauk program, or do you want to share with our audience in a minute or two about that?
Well, Montauk Project was from 1970 to 1983. Basically, it was about mind control, genetic manipulation, time travel, esoteric weaponry, weather manipulation, a whole bunch of electromagnetic experimentation. And with me, personally, they were trying to create a being who could see into other realities without the use of a device. So, in effect, the person becomes the device. And that's what happened with me. The side effect was I was physically blind for 29 years. I couldn't see physical reality the way normal people do. I could just see energy fields. And that's why I'm able to do the work I do now, because of that experience.
Well, I guess that's a surprise to them, I guess in the whole bigger picture, that has helped us immensely get all this information. And it's just so important to have this information and to be able to...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I really like the fact that overall, though, this is a cool love story, that, how you guys just found each other and how it all works together. It's like synergy, and I don't know. I think I'm just fascinated by the human aspect of that. Stuart, you're going to have be on NBC?
Yeah, that I just did last month a 2-hour special with NBC. That will be aired sometime this summer. I don't know the exact dates yet, but I'll post it up on the website. I also did a documentary in Iceland last December, and of course the trip to South America and Antarctica was also filmed as a documentary. So all of those are being processed now, worked on, edited for future airing on television.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So people will we're gonna know about these secret government projects, and people are gonna find out, right?
Yes, and in fact, they did a movie called Montauk Chronicles, which is about to be released.
I love it. I mean, it shows that we're really open now. We're getting more open to hearing about this stuff, and it's exciting times. It is truly exciting times.
I mean, I thought I knew a lot, but I really have learned a lot from you guys. So, first of all, simultaneous existences and parallel universes are different things.
Well, no, they're the same thing. It's just really the semantics involved.
Okay.
Parallel meaning that they're side by side, meaning they're one next to the other. So, and simultaneous, time-wise, they exist at the same moment. Mm-hmm. And we can look at that today. just extrapolate at this very moment. It could be Friday here, but in Tokyo it's already Saturday. Yet it's the same moment, and yet they're in our future. See?
Sure.
So if you extrapolate that to infinity, then you have all the different time zones, all the eras in time, all the different centuries, millennium, are all existing at the same moment.
Mm-hmm. I get it. Yeah, I get it. So if you guys could, if you could just say one thing to people, like, that's the most important thing. Like, Janet, what would you say? And Stewart, what would you say if there was, one thing that you would want to, get across to people, or what's the time is now to do this, the time is now to, educate yourself about what? I'm just curious, where's the light shining the most vividly right now?
Well, if I could just impress upon people just one thing, it would be to remove their victimization, so that no negative experiences have to happen to them personally or to the world as a species. Remove the negativity within, and you will have everything you want without in the external.
And I think as far as myself, what I would tell people is it's time to remember their personal power. I think people feel a victim to so many aspects of society. Excuse me, whether it's somebody saying I can't sell my house, or I can't find a job, or, I don't have this, I don't have that, somebody's out there pressing me. I think people forget they are connected, self over soul, God, mind. They have access to to the biggest source that exists. So there's no reason to feel powerless or victimized. Mm-hmm. They need to remember their own personal power and work on actualizing that. Don't lay down and say, there's nothing I can do. There's everything. Just like what you talked about, too, also in the beginning. Stewart and I started out in a tiny little room for a year, and we had lots of oppressive things happen to us, and we managed to get ourselves out. And I say, if we can do it, you can do it. There's nothing that makes us different or more special or better than anybody else. We're really all the same. It depends upon what we choose to actualize.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of just getting up in the morning and really remembering who you truly are. And I know that a lot of you want to call it the Illuminati, whatever, they're out there trying to break our spirits. They're really trying to enslave us and to keep us programmed and to keep us poor and broken. And to remember who we truly are each day, and then to realize that we are not victims, never have been, never will be, and to tell a different story, to literally unhook from that story and begin telling a better story for ourselves.
No, that's absolutely correct. And, they want us to think that we have no connection to the God mind, or that we're broken away from it, but that's impossible, because we couldn't exist without it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I know a lot of people say, I don't feel connected to God or to the God mind or to Source. And the truth is we never are not connected.
Right. Exactly.
And if they buy into that illusion, then they're losing that personal power, and that is exactly what is planned. And that's what makes it so easy for the Illuminati to take over, because people just give up. They forget that they are connected.
And they enhance that with the vaccinations and the medications and all the junk they put in food and the air. And so basically we become contaminated vessels that can't tap into what's really part of us.
Or at least confused vessels, that's for sure.
Yes. I hear you on that one. Damn those Illuminati.
Well, they're good teachers. Remember what we talked about. They're good teachers. So.
Oh, that's right.
We're learning.
How I want to say to Stewart, what's going on with the bees situation? I haven't heard you talk anything about the bees. I may have missed it on your website. Is that something bigger, or really is it just cyclical in some sense?
I did write about it on my website months ago, and the problem with the bees is with the commercial ones. The organic beekeepers have no problem with their bees.
And also we were told in our research that it's cyclical. So they're making a big deal out of nothing, and what will happen is then they'll say, there wasn't good pollination, and therefore the food prices have to go up.
Oh,
So it's economics, but it's not reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Plenty of bees around this house in the spring and summer.
Same here.
Yeah, we got plenty of bees here. We got plenty of dog poop in the backyard, which we have to do poop patrol pretty soon.
Would you come here and do that too?
Okay, for you guys, we will.
Thanks.
Martha Stewart, go ahead.
What we hear on the news, is mostly hype. If you cut it in half, even that's exaggeration. The news media is told what to say and how to say it, and in such a way to make people get scared or excited about something, when in fact the opposite is true of what's going on. And we travel so much, we go to so many different countries, the news in other countries is very different than what we have here.
And that's what we teach people how to do, is just what's true, what's false, how do you read behind it? How do you read the frequencies that are going on? What's really happening versus the lies? How do you tell all that apart? That's all a part of what we teach people to do, so they're not victims.
Well, I really would recommend that seminar in April. If people can, I know that we have global listeners, and I'm sure people come from all over to your seminars to learn these techniques. And I think, aren't you guys offering some sort of, like, that people can actually become teachers of this? Or am I correct in that?
Yes, in May, I'm doing an affiliate program where I'm going to teach everybody to do what I do.
That's fabulous.
Yes, it's on the site. I encourage people to read that information and to sign up for it and come and join me in May.
It's going to be a very intense week, and there'll be some amazing work done, and people are going to be surprised at what they really can do with a little bit of direction and focus.
Awesome. I've learned so much tonight. I really appreciate it. And, you might find me at that seminar in May.
I hope so.
It'll be great to meet you in person.
Yes.
I'll be fabulous.
And it's always a good group that comes, because these are people who are really serious about learning, and we have fabulous groups that attend our events. Never had one where I could say, that person or that person shouldn't have been there. They are all good, and they're all great participants.
That's nice. And I'm sure that's how you intend it to be. That's right,
What I want to do right now is read one of Janet's affirmations on expansion. Rather than let the outer world close you off from your source, now is the time to expand your horizons. Greet the challenges of your outer world. These are the challenges that create growth and strength on all levels. And then you give your day one affirmation, which is, I expand my horizons and embrace new growth. And I just think that couldn't be a more perfect conclusion to this program. And everyone can go to expansions.com to find information about Janet's book, 1009 Daily Affirmations. Years in the making, as I like to say. Thank you for doing that. And also the seminar coming up in April that you guys are holding. Stewart, I know that you have your TV show hopefully this summer that's coming out on NBC. I can't wait to see you on there. Is there anything that you guys want to share before we conclude?
Janet, anything you want to say?
Oh, well, you know what? I just think that it's really wonderful, the potential that's out there, and I love to see people actualize their potential. I guess it's kind of the downside of who and what I am, and I see so much that could happen, and people just sitting there. Well, don't sit. If you want to come, make it happen. Come to a seminar, get your books, get your DVDs, make something happen within yourself. Don't sit there and whine. Allow yourself to be shaken up a little bit, because it's just amazing, the potential that's locked in there. Let's unleash it as a whole, and let's really get out there and make a difference in this world.
In the Star Wars movie, Yoda said, there is no try. There's either do or don't do.
Or don't do. That's right.
So I'm telling everyone to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to see you all at our seminars and our events. Everybody's got a piece of the puzzle. That's what makes it so
Yes.
fantastic. Everyone
Yes.
is equally as important.